Hi, my name is Julia. This is Julia Tries It All, and today we're trying two things. Number one, we're trying to make a YouTube video. Never done it before. I'm very anxious, but I want to, and so here I am. The second thing we're going to try in the YouTube video is I'm going to try to show you how to make my favorite bread recipe. My plan is to cover all the little nuances about bread making. What's it supposed to look like when yeast blooms? How hot is the water supposed to be? Those types of things. How long do I knead for? When do I know when it's done kneading? All that kind of stuff. I'm gonna go through it in this video and hopefully get you started in making some yummy bread for yourself. All right, so to get started, what you need is 3 cups of warm water. And by warm, I mean when you put your finger in it, you want it to feel just slightly warmer than your finger. If it's too hot, it will kill the yeast, and if it's too cold, it won't activate it. So I'm going to take my water, and this was just boiled water. So I boiled the water, poured it in the cup, and then let it cool down until it was the appropriate temperature. So again, that's 3 cups of water. And then I'm going to take a 1/4 cup of sugar, just regular granulated sugar, and we're going to stir it up. So I'm just whisking to dissolve the sugar into the water, and then once it's dissolved, you can add your yeast. So this is 1.5 tablespoons of yeast, and I'm just going to dump it in. I used to think that you were just supposed to dump it in, but then I learned that it's best if you mix it all up. So now we're going to let that sit until the yeast activates, and I will show you what that looks like when it's done. Ta-da! This is what it should look like. So this is activated yeast, and you can see that the bloom has covered the top of the bowl, and that means it is ready for the next step. There are only 3 more ingredients to make bread, and one of them is flour, of course. The other is salt and a little bit of oil. So the next step, once you've got to this point where you have a nice bloom of your yeast, then you can start to add some flour. So to make sure that we don't interfere with the development of the yeast, we're going to add flour first to feed it. And I don't know if that's technical. I don't know if we're really feeding it. But this is a cup of flour. And I'm going to add one more, actually, never mind. I'm going to add my oil next. So we're just adding that in. And I'm going to add another 2 cups of flour, roughly. A lot of this is by feel, so as you practice, you will get a feel for how much flour you need to add at each step, and how much flour you need to add in total. Depending on the season, I will have to add more or less flour. So, like, depending on the general humidity in the air, you might need to add more or less flour. So I'm going to say that's good for now. And I am going to add 1 more cup of flour. So now we're at 4 cups of flour. And then I'm going to pour my salt on top of that. I don't want my salt to come into direct contact with my yeast because it will kill the yeast. Sugar feeds it, salt kills it. At least that's what I've been told. Who knows? I'm just a random person on the internet trying to show you how to make my favorite recipe. So don't hold me to anything. I've switched to a spoon because, as you can see, this gets quite gunky and you end up losing a bunch of your dough. So I've switched to a wooden spoon. And I basically want to incorporate as much flour as possible into the recipe before I dump it on the counter to start kneading. So I'm going to add 1 more cup of flour. That'll put us at 5, I think. And the total you want to add to this recipe is about 6 to 7 cups of flour. So I'm going to continue to mix this. And once it gets to the point where it's all in kind of a sticky ball, then you want to dump it onto the counter and start really giving it a go with kneading. So that's probably where I want it. And so I'm just gonna dump this, scoot out as much as I can. This is really hard because the phone is directly in my way. But I'm gonna keep going. And hopefully you're all sticking around. Okay, so I'm gonna take my bare hands. My hands are clean, obviously. I've seen on some people's videos on YouTube, they'll comment like, why aren't you wearing gloves? But who wears gloves when they cook for their family? Like, do you all wear gloves when you cook for your family? Or is that just something you say on the internet? I don't know. Anyways, I'm not gonna wear gloves. Clean hands work as well as gloves in most cases, especially if it's just for your family. So I'm just gonna dump flour, and I am going to start just incorporating it. And you're basically gonna pull and smush. This needs more flour. So I'm gonna add a bit more. And when it's really sticky at first, it's messy. It just is. If you have a mixer, good for you. Use that. My mixer, I do have one, but it is too small to do this recipe. And this is my favorite recipe. It's so yummy. And it turns out well. It's pretty consistent. And it makes the exact right size loaf for my Pullman pan, which I will show you in a minute. All right. So we're just going to keep smushing and incorporating. Oh, just ignore my phone cord. Like I said, I am not a baker. I am a random person on the internet who had a friend who was a baker, and she gave me this recipe, and now it's my favorite. Okay, I'm just trying to scoot some of this off. It's very sticky at first. Okay. So as I'm kneading, I'm just kind of incorporating more of the flour to make the dough less sticky. So as I'm kneading, if it starts to get sticky, I just bring more of the flour in. And eventually you will end up with a smooth ball of dough that is no longer sticky and feels lovely. Sorry if I'm panting. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have just kept kneading along, adding flour as needed. So, get it? Needed? So basically what I mean by as needed is whenever it started to feel sticky or stick to my hands, I would just sprinkle a little flour on the counter and then keep kneading. So you can see how like the texture has already changed. It's starting to look smoother. And to knead, basically all you want to do is you want to pull and smush. Pull and smush. Pull, smush. Pull, turn, pull, smush. Turn, pull, smush. Get it? Turn, pull, smush. Smush. And you basically do that until you're dead. No. No, until it starts to change consistency. So when you knead it, what you're doing is you're activating the gluten, I think. And what the gluten does is make the dough stretchy. So when you can start to pull it away and it doesn't rip, then you know you're done kneading. I don't think I've ever over kneaded because I tend to quit before it's time. But yeah, there's my little, so you can see it's like stretching now. See? All right. So I have got a smaller bowl that I oiled a bit. And I am just going to plop my little rounded ball of dough in there. And I'm going to get a tea towel or like a dish towel and cover this. Whoops. And what I'm going to do to make sure that the dough doesn't stick to the towel and it doesn't dry out is I'm going to dampen the towel, wring it out, and put it over top. And then I'm going to pop this somewhere warm for probably 20 minutes. It takes a bit longer to rise than other bread dough that I've tried, but it's worth the wait. So I'm going to do that, put this aside, and I'll be back when it is about doubled in size. Okay, if you're like me, the hardest part about making bread is the waiting. But as you can see, there's a little bit of a dome to our dough. So I'm going to remove the towel. Ta-da! So we're going to take this out. And okay, we had a little mishap. Sometimes this happens. The dough was too sticky on the bottom side, so it all stuck to my rolling pin. But we're just going to give it a go anyways. Oh, that might be a mistake. But basically what you want to do is roll it all out into a flat rectangle and kind of push out any bubbles that might be in the dough. And your experience may be imperfect like this too, and that's all good. Okay, that's good enough. Despite what I always thought about baking, it doesn't actually have to be perfect to work. It just has to be ish. So there's our little log. Again, not perfect, but we're going to take our loaf pan, and I'm going to use a Pullman loaf pan, which is like this rectangle with a lid, and I'm just going to plop it in there. If you don't have a Pullman lid, this dough will make 2 regular size loaves of bread and 3 smaller size loaves. So I'm just going to do that, and we're going to wait some more. Okay, now that the dough is formed into a loaf and in our pan, we're going to put this back in the warm spot to rise again, just like the Rankin family song. Okay, so it's been about half an hour and it has rised quite a bit. So now I am going to pop this into the oven, the preheated oven at 375, and it's going to take about 40 minutes for a loaf this size in my oven. Again, this took a lot of playing around and figuring out, so you'll probably have to do the same with your oven. Okay, but for now I'm going to pop this in the oven and I will be back to show you what the finished loaf looks like. This is the last little bit of waiting we have to do. It's done. Ta-da! So now I'm going to take it out of the pan. And we have our lovely loaf of bread. I'm going to let it cool and I'll be back and we'll cut it. I can't tell you how good it smells. I might have overcooked it a bit. I took it out after about 35 minutes, but it looks pretty good. How you know it's done, I learned this little trick. If you tap it and it sounds hollow, your bread is ready. Guess what? You made it to the end. The bread is ready. We're about to cut into it. My little guy, Rye Guy, is here to taste test with me.
Yeah.
We cut into the bread already. This is what it looks like. And now we're going to cut a slice and Rye Guy's going to give it a try and see what he thinks.
Yeah, it was steaming a lot when it came out.
It was very steamy. It still is steamy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here's the bread. We're gonna get some butter. Some butter. Put some butter on. All right. If you made it this far in the video, let me know what you think of my first video. Let me know if you have any feedback, if you have any advice on how to make YouTube videos or how to make bread. If I did something that you think you have a tip or trick on how I could do better, I'm always looking to improve. So, bottoms up here, actually. I'm going to take half.
Okay.
Oh, I'll give you the bigger half.
No.
No, it's okay. Okay, I won't make you listen to me eat, but it's good. What do you think, Bri?
It's really good.
Thanks for hanging out. This has been Julia Tries It All. I tried making a YouTube video. I tried to teach you how to make bread. What do you think? See you next time.
Yeah.